it, I believe. Ah, that's what they gave you. That's probably a song. Do it again. Maybe that's why you played this way. You playing this version? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Now you have to start it on C. That it should begin on the second beat. No, but it's quarter. 1 and 2. Try again. 1 and 2. And 2. Actually, skip this G and just simply play from there after you play the second beat. 1 and 2. No, a little bit. And 2. No, that doesn't make sense. Then this should be 2/16 notes, not 32nd. No. 1 and. I think what they're doing, this is they transcribe how you have to play this in that times frame that you have there. So it will be 1 and 2 and 3. No, so it should start on and. And 2 and 2 and no. Yeah, imagine as G is held. After you be saying and, you will play the rest. 1 and 2 and. Right. Yeah, right. 1 and 2 and 2 and 2 and no, after and.
Alright.
And 2 and right. Or what they're doing, they want you to play G again, so it will be 1 and 2 and you can strike G again, but on the end. 1 and 2 and that's right. Yeah. So you were playing it on the first beat, and that's why the whole bar was shrinking, and you had to count that. Okay, very good. Now, the thing is that it is you're looking at the second movement of early Beethoven sonata. It's largely, if you have to pick between Mozart or Haydn, who influenced Beethoven more, actually Haydn would be the right choice. So Haydn, if you look at his second movement, they have something similar kind of writing, a lot of certain embellishments. You have to figure out how they fit in between. That's why you have all these lines drawing. So, but the thing is that it's an interesting music language because it's supposed to be continuous, melodic, lyrical, musical thought, but it's constantly interrupted by short groupings. So you have to somehow satisfy both, have a larger thinking, and you have to hear your short motivic groups and phrase them or subphrase them accordingly. In general, when you have a short slur or so many notes under a shorter slur, you usually, but not always, but usually you have to play the end of the slur softer. That's why in general would be not a bad idea for you to, besides just a generic edition, is to find Henley edition and check exactly how the articulation is written there, because that changes quite a bit of, it will change your microphrasing in motivic groups. Because if you have a, let's say, here it's obvious. But if there's no snare, you might be playing light, detached sound. So I would check with Henley. I don't remember on the top of my head how the phrasing is, or the slurs in Henley edition. And they might be either almost all of them the same, or most of them the same. So inexpensive edition doesn't mean it's inaccurate. So, but I would check that because it will change a few things possibly. Next thing you see, you have to count this quarter. One long musical sentence. So somehow it has to sound united, yet you have to have your phrasing. In order for this to sound united, your phrasing has to be planned again. You have to know where your absolute highest point and where you have transitional high points. You have them obviously see. Usual overall shape of the typical melodic phrase, that you start somewhere low, then you get high toward middle or a little bit past the mid section of this phrase, and then you come down. So that has to be well planned, because otherwise it sounds like you have a bunch of short phrases. You plan very well in general, but what I'm saying is just the next thing would be is what to do. See, I have to remember what I did with this A, so that I have, based on this, I'm going to elevate that, yeah? Try again for the beginning. No. Being clear with your microdynamic. Again, you have macrodynamic and micro. Micro is the one that would be responsible for shorter phrasing, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes, and then macrodynamic is what you're doing, where you start and where your climax is. Yeah. Try again. Careful with the ending. See, I was careful with the ending of this slur, and then I played a little bit deeper, but not as much as there. The following 2 notes slur.
Excuse me, could you say that definition of micro and macro again, and maybe everyone can write that down? I think that's
see, the macrodynamic, there is such thing as structural dynamic, and there is such thing as expressive dynamic. It's not that clear black and white. Usually structural dynamic is the one that you see in the music score, when it says piano, forte, crescendo, diminuendo. It just tells you, play softer here, somewhat softer, play somewhat louder there, make crescendo here, make diminuendo there. It just tells you where the high point all overall in the piece. Now, the next level is dynamic that is not written for you. It's phrasing dynamic. That dynamic is borderline between structural and expressive already, because it's still within the phrase. We have a high point, we have a low point, and sometimes the composers would not, or the score would not indicate that, but we still phrase it, yeah? So therefore, it is a structural dynamic anyway already, but again, it's already bordering the expressive dynamic. The expressive dynamic is the one that how you phrase between short motivic groups. And then you altering sometimes even the structural dynamic a little bit. that dynamic is the one that comes as a result of your expressive need. So, and that dynamic is definitely not written. This dynamic, you would make slight adjustments in the structural dynamic to accommodate expressive content without changing structural dynamic completely. So, for example, let's say if I'm playing what I'm doing, you obviously hear me climbing all the way to the top. That's a structural dynamic, but at the same time, notice what I'm doing. How I get to that top? I'm doing so. I mean, it's the same. It's crescendo, but how I do it based on my expressive needs. So I have to make crescendo, but I'm not making crescendo that is completely. This is purely structural sound. Because I played lower, I made my crescendo, and then I pulled back a little bit, and then I made my crescendo and reached the top. Next thing I'm doing exactly the same thing, but on the micro level, I'm doing certain adjustments based on my, again, expressive approach. So. That's the crescendo and diminuendo. But this is expressive crescendo diminuendo versus I can play softer than that. This is purely just listening and adding more and then subtracting if I need less. Expressive will add that smoother connection and adds this color, adds this something that again you can intellectually measure only to a certain level. So it's a very non-specific but yet clear distinction between those two, and it's that the expressive dynamic is sometimes the one that is hard to break into because it's based on a lot of.
So you're saying with Elaine that
she has to proportion everything.
Right.
She has to be a little bit more clear in terms of her large
For bigger,
structural
for
dynamic.
structural dynamics. She seems to be working more on the smaller.
On the
little
smaller
pieces.
groupings, yeah.
Mhm.
And then somehow within the groupings, because when she plays. How she does this diminuendo will determine if it sounds expressive or just she's doing diminuendo. Because what it involves change in sound intensity based on how I want this to be expressed. So if you want to think more, it would be an image of being more content and peaceful. So therefore, you're not going to play. I'm doing my crescendo diminuendo here, but as you notice, I'm anywhere from peaceful. I had a little bit of the kind of nervous breakdown, and then I kind of think what just happened. Yeah, so it's. Again, I would not. I mean, I can explain what I'm doing, but there is a borderline when you start analyze up to a certain point, and from that point, it has to be trial and error and trial and error to figure out if that matches the expression. In order to match the expression, you have to know what you're trying to express here. So your structural dynamic structural dynamic is simple. You have to balance, that's a given, and then you have to figure out where your higher points, and then you balance them between each other. This is high, this is high. But when it comes to the expressive, you have to keep in mind big picture. But then You have to realize what you're trying to express. What are you trying to express here? You didn't think about this yet, yeah?
Oh, I mean, I know what, like, I know how to express it, but like, not really.
How to find the word.
Yeah.
But to a certain level, you should be able to describe it. Is it, find the adjective that will describe this. Let's say your first phrase.
Yeah.
It's about,
Like calm, I guess.
it's about being calm.
Yeah.
Is it about
Yeah, peaceful. Like,
peaceful, content,
yeah.
noble? Could go there, yeah?
Yeah.
And then, because it's not just, calm and you're just sitting there not doing anything, yeah?
Yeah.
It's an act of expression, so there is an active form of being calm in music, if you will. So, if you do this, that will not only alter your sound vertically and horizontally, but it's also going to alter a little bit of the time in between notes. See, my